Is it understandable to be confused by some of the things that Pope Francis says? Absolutely. As I've often noted, there are times Pope Francis could communicate a point better. There are instances where he has made off-the-cuff comments on an airplane, or occasions where he has expressed something in writing that could use more precision. It is completely understandable to be confused by some of these occasions. It's also understandable to be confused about what the media often says about Pope Francis. As I've often documented in great detail on this channel, we have had over 10 years of conditioning by the media and are often presented with a perspective about Pope Francis that is simply not true. Sadly, this comes not only from the secular media, but also from Catholic sources. As I've noted many times, people who are confused by what Pope Francis has said or by how the media has portrayed him have my sympathies, and I've dedicated hundreds of hours of content to help them work through this confusion. Where the sympathy ends is when someone participates in spreading misinformation about Pope Francis or publicly dissents against his magisterial authority, as both of these are considered gravely immoral in Catholic theology. We might be able to have sympathy for persons, but we cannot have sympathy for sin. In other words, it is one thing to be confused, and it is another to spread misinformation or dissent. Imagine this scenario. Suppose someone posted false accusations about you with various influential news outlets, claiming that you are an adulterer and a drug addict. And they made these claims without any evidence, or worse, by completely distorting something innocent that you said. It is understandable if people who read such things about you may have some questions or even confusion about you. And I imagine you would be sympathetic towards them and their confusion in light of the situation. However, what is not understandable is for such confused people to repeat those false claims about you without any evidence in a public setting, or even private for that matter. That is where the sympathy begins to wear down. In such cases, you would have every right to call them out for spreading false accusations that are harmful to your reputation. This is equivalent to the situation with Pope Francis today. Sympathy and compassion is available for the confused, but for those who slander, lie, and slay the Pope's reputation with their mouths, compassion for such things is inappropriate and maybe even cowardly. It is also worth addressing those who criticize figures who defend the magisterium and the Pope against lies and slander. It seems odd to criticize those who are defending the church from lies, while giving a pass to those who slander the church with lies. But this is usually what's done today. Let me give you an analogy from a real situation that happened to me in real life. I had a burglar come into my carport in the middle of the night last night, and they tried to break into my vehicle. I immediately confronted him, and he left. So the situation ended well. But suppose the burglar had not left peacefully and pulled a gun on me. Would I have been justified in disabling him with my firearm out of self-defense? Of course. But what if it were the case that a burglar who did such a thing was completely exonerated by the judge, praised in public, and I was arrested for attempted murder for simply defending myself? Wouldn't this be completely backwards? Shouldn't the aggressor be the one who is arrested, and the one who defends himself be seen as justified? This is the kind of gaslighting that goes on today when people who defend the magisterium are criticized instead of the people who attack it. That is the situation that we're facing. I'll also add that it is inappropriate to raise one's voice in support for those who attack the church over and against those who defend it, given how few Catholics are publicly defending the church today, to our shame. If one were to raise their voice in support of one side, shouldn't it be those who are defending Christ's teaching authority on earth today? It is sad. The situation in the church today has become so backwards that those who defend the Pope are said to have appointed themselves defenders of the faith, meanwhile ignoring that it is the slanderous critics of the papacy who have set themselves up as defenders of the faith over and against the magisterium of Jesus Christ on earth. And yet they go unchallenged. So in summary, we should have compassion on those who are confused in the church today. But that doesn't mean that we should give a pass to those who aren't just confused, but are confident enough to spread information, especially in cases when they should know better. Let's stop the gaslighting, and let's stop making excuses for those sowing divisions in the church. God bless. Hey friends, do you want others to discover why the Catholic Church is the church that Jesus established? And do you want to help people make sense of all the confusion in the Catholic Church today? Help contribute to this mission by supporting Reason and Theology at patreon.com/Reason and Theology. By doing so, you'll also get access to exclusive content for patrons only. Also, if you want to deepen your faith, there are free ebooks and even courses that you can sign up for by visiting reason.podia.com.